The great hall was filled with fear. 12 different alien species sat around the massive crystal table, their voices mixing into a chorus of panic. Commander Jinwoo Kim stood quietly in the corner, watching. His human eyes took in every detail. While the aliens argued about their doom, the holographic display in the center showed the same terrible scene over and over. A giant creature, 12 meters tall, walking through a battlefield like death itself. Ships exploded around it. Soldiers ran in terror. Nothing could stop it. "The Render has destroyed 17 battle fleets in 3 days," said Overlord Thexmanar. His reptilian voice was full of pride. The Vorthak leader's scales shifted color as he spoke, showing his pleasure. "Your armies are nothing against our creation." Admiral Hyejin Park sat at the human section of the table. Her face showed no emotion, but Jinwoo knew she was thinking hard. She always did that when facing impossible problems. "Tell us about this weapon," Hyejin said. Her voice was calm and steady. The other aliens looked at her like she was crazy. The Zephyrian delegate's skin flashed bright red with fear. "You cannot fight it. We must surrender before it comes to our worlds." Thexmanar laughed, a sound like grinding metal. "The human wants to know about the Render. Very well. Learn about your death." The display changed. Now it showed the creature in detail. Its body was covered in armor that moved like liquid metal. Weapons grew from its back and arms like deadly flowers. Its eyes glowed with cold intelligence. "Biomechanical perfection," said High Scientist Quindel. The luminary researcher's ethereal form glowed brighter as she spoke. "Living tissue merged with advanced technology. It thinks faster than your best computers. It adapts to any attack in seconds." Jinwoo watched the recordings. The Render moved like a predator, but it thought like a machine. Every step was calculated. Every attack was perfect. It never wasted energy or made mistakes. "Its neural network processes battle data at quantum speeds," Quindel continued. "It predicts enemy movements with 99.7% accuracy. No strategy can surprise it." The display showed more terrible scenes. The Render's plasma cannons melted through the strongest shields. Its claws cut through battle armor like paper. When enemy ships tried to ram it, the creature created gravity fields that crushed them into metal balls. "Impressive," Hyejin said. The other aliens stared at her in shock. "Impressive?" The Nexus Prime's mechanical voice buzzed with disbelief. "This creature will end all free civilizations. The Vorthak will rule everything." Thexmanar's scales turned bright gold with pleasure. "Finally, someone understands. The Render is unstoppable. It learns from every battle. Each victory makes it stronger and smarter." Jinwoo studied the weapon's movements. Something about them bothered him, but he could not say what. The creature was perfect, but perfection sometimes meant predictability. "What powers it?" Hyejin asked. "Fusion cores and biological energy," Quindel answered. "It can fight for months, without rest. The living parts heal damage while the mechanical parts adapt and improve." "And its weaknesses?" The hall went silent. Then Thexmanar laughed again. "Weaknesses? There are none. We spent 300 years designing the perfect weapon. Every flaw was removed. Every vulnerability was fixed." Hyejin nodded slowly. Jinwoo knew that look. She was filing away information, building a plan in her mind. "You have 72 hours, Thexmanar announced. "The Render will attack your Terran defense grid as a demonstration. After your fleets are destroyed, every world will surrender to the Vorthak Empire." The alien delegates erupted in panic again. Some begged for mercy, others suggested immediate surrender. The Stellar Dominion's proud ambassador actually wept, but Hyejin stood up calmly. "We understand. 72 hours. You accept your fate?" Thexmanar sounded surprised. "We accept the challenge," Hyejin corrected. Jinwoo felt a chill run through the room. The aliens had never heard a human say those words before. They did not understand what it meant when humanity accepted a challenge. The meeting ended with promises of doom and begging for mercy. The aliens scattered to their ships, some to flee and others to prepare surrender documents. Only the humans remained calm. Impossible odds, Jinwoo said when they were alone. The best kind, Hee-jin replied. They walked to their private communication room. The walls hummed with encryption fields that kept alien ears from listening. Hee-jin activated the quantum transmitter. Earth Command, this is Admiral Park. We have full specifications on the target. General Daewon-yoon's face appeared on the screen. His expression was grim but determined. How bad is it? Worse than our worst estimates, Hee-jin said. It is everything they claimed and more. No conventional weapon can stop it. Then we use unconventional methods, the general said. Is Jinwoo ready? Jinwoo stepped forward. I volunteer for the mission, sir. You understand what we are asking? Yes, sir. Someone needs to get close to that thing, close enough to find its real weakness. Hee-jin brought up the tactical data. The render is designed to fight armies, fleets, and civilizations. It expects energy weapons, kinetic bombardment, and predictable strategies. But not a single human with a crazy plan, Jinwoo said. Exactly. The aliens think in terms of technology and firepower. They design weapons to counter other weapons, but they never consider variables they cannot compute. General Yoon leaned forward. Are you certain about this approach? No, Hee-jin admitted. But certainty is a luxury we cannot afford. The entire galaxy is about to fall under Vorthak rule. Someone has to try something different. Jinwoo thought about the render's perfect movements and flawless predictions. Then he thought about human unpredictability, about the chaos that came from emotion and instinct. Send me the volunteer, he said. I know exactly who we need. Already on his way, General Yoon said. Sergeant Min-ho Lee, enhanced reflexes, structural engineering background, and completely insane. Perfect, Hee-jin said. As the transmission ended, Jinwoo looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, the render was preparing to destroy humanity. It had never lost a battle. It had never failed to complete a mission. But it had never fought a human before. The creature thought it was unstoppable because it had faced predictable enemies with predictable tactics. It had fought civilizations that relied on logic and planning and superior technology. Humanity was about to show the galaxy what happened when logic met madness, when perfection faced chaos, and when an unstoppable force encountered an unmovable human spirit. The countdown to war had begun. 72 hours to save not just humanity, but the freedom of every thinking being in the galaxy. And their plan was completely insane. Sergeant Min-ho Lee floated in the training chamber, sweat dripping in zero gravity. His muscles burned from hours of practice, but he kept moving. Around him, holographic enemies attacked with perfect timing and flawless technique. He defeated them all with chaos and instinct. Again, said Dr. Yuna Choi from the observation deck. Her voice came through the speakers with clinical calm. Min-ho twisted in midair, using momentum instead of thrusters. The movement looked wrong, unplanned, but it worked. His opponents could not predict where he would go next because he did not know himself. That is enough for today, Dr. Yuna finally said. Min-ho activated the gravity and landed hard. His legs shook with exhaustion, but his eyes burned with determination. How much time do we have? 18 hours until you launch. 36 hours until contact with the render. Dr. Yuna was a small woman with intense eyes. She had spent 5 years studying alien psychology and found their greatest weakness. They were too smart for their own good. Tell me about the neural network again, Min-ho said as they walked to the briefing room. The render thinks like a quantum computer, she explained. It processes millions of possibilities every second and chooses the most efficient response. But efficiency requires prediction. It must know what you will do before you do it. And if I do not know what I will do, then it cannot predict you. Chaos is the one thing perfect logic cannot solve. They entered the briefing room where Captain Taehyun Song waited with tactical displays. His special operations team had been preparing their own part of the mission. The insertion vehicles are ready, Taehyun reported. Modified mining ships disguised as refugee vessels. The Vorthak expect humans to flee. so they will not scan us too carefully. Private Suman Kang looked up from her communication console. I have been monitoring alien channels. Some species are secretly hoping we succeed. The Vorthak have made many enemies. Good, Minho said, but we cannot count on help. This has to work with just us. Dr. Yuna activated a holographic display of the render. The creature rotated slowly, showing every detail of its biomechanical perfection. Standard weapons are useless, she said. Energy shields deflect lasers and plasma. Kinetic barriers stop missiles and projectiles. The armor adapts to whatever damages it. But it is still a machine, Minho said. Machines have breaking points. Yes, but not where you think. The real weakness is not in the armor or weapons. It is in the decision-making process. The render was designed to fight logical enemies who use predictable tactics. Taehyun brought up battle recordings. Look at how it moves. Every step is calculated for maximum efficiency. Every attack follows optimal patterns. It never wastes energy. It is too perfect, Minho realized. Perfect systems cannot handle imperfection. Exactly. The neural network will try to adapt to your fighting style, but adaptation requires understanding. If your actions follow no pattern, it cannot learn from them. Suman's console beeped with an incoming message. Admiral Park is requesting final confirmation. Are we really doing this? Minho looked at the tactical display showing the Vorthak fleet. Hundreds of massive ships surrounded the render like protective parents. The alien observers were already in position to watch humanity's destruction. A single soldier against the ultimate weapon, he said. No backup plan, no advanced technology. Just human stubbornness and the hope that crazy beats smart. Do not forget your training, Dr. Yuna said. You know structural engineering. Biomechanical systems have stress points where organic meets machine. Find those joints and pressure points. And remember, Taehyun added, you are not trying to outfight it. You are trying to break its ability to think clearly. Make it question its own programming. Minho nodded. The plan was simple in concept but terrifying in execution. Get close to the render without being killed. Engage it in close combat where its weapons were less effective. Fight in ways that would confuse its predictive systems. And somehow, with bare hands and human determination, destroy a weapon that had crushed entire armies. The insertion pods are loaded onto the mining ships, Taehyun reported. Captain Dongwook Han will command the fleet. His job is to make the approach look like a desperate evacuation. What if the Vorthak do not buy the deception? Then we all die quickly instead of slowly, Suman said with dark humor. Dr. Yuna pulled Minho aside as the others continued planning. There is something else you should know. The render's biomechanical brain experiences something like pain when damaged. Most aliens designed their weapons to avoid causing suffering, even to enemies. But humans are not that nice, Minho said. No, we are not. If necessary, you can use that pain response to disrupt its thinking. Damage that causes feedback to the neural network will create hesitation and confusion. Minho felt a chill. They were asking him to torture a living creature, even if it was a weapon designed to destroy civilizations. But the alternative was slavery for every free species in the galaxy. I understand, he said. The next few hours passed in final preparations. Minho reviewed structural diagrams until he could identify weak points in his sleep. The insertion team practiced their approach until every movement was automatic. Captain Dongwook's fleet ran simulations of the fake evacuation. As launch time approached, Minho stood in the observation deck looking at Earth. His home world looked peaceful from orbit, but he knew that in 30 hours it might be under attack. Second, thoughts? Dr. Yuna asked, joining him at the window. Many thoughts, but not second ones. The odds are impossible. Good thing humans are too stupid to understand math. She laughed despite the tension. The render has never lost because it has never faced anything like you. You represent chaos in a universe of order, emotion in a realm of logic. And if I fail? Then we try something else equally crazy. That is what humans do. The launch alarm sounded. Minho made his way to the insertion pod, a small craft designed to look like debris. Inside, He strapped himself into the cramped seat and ran through his mental checklist one final time. Communication check. Suman's voice came through the speakers. Clear signal, Minho replied. Remember, Dr. Yuna said over the comm, fight like a human, messy, emotional, and completely unpredictable. Roger that. The mining ships launched. From Luna Base. Their engines burning bright against the darkness. To any observer, they looked like refugee vessels fleeing Earth in panic. The Vorthak would expect that. Most species ran when faced with the render. But Minho was not running away. He was running toward the most dangerous creature in the galaxy, armed with nothing but human stubbornness and a plan that made no sense to any logical mind. The journey to the battle zone would take 12 hours. 12 hours to think about what he was about to attempt. 12 hours to question his sanity. Instead, Minho closed his eyes and imagined the render falling apart under his bare hands. The image was impossible, ridiculous, and completely human. Perfect. The void between worlds had become an arena. Massive Vorthak dreadnoughts formed a circle around their ultimate weapon, while observation ships from a dozen species waited at safe distances. Everyone had come to watch humanity die. Minho floated, in his insertion pod, hidden among the debris of an old battle. Through the small viewport, he could see the render clearly for the first time. The creature was even more terrifying in person than in the recordings. 12 meters of biomechanical perfection stood motionless in space, its armor plates shifting like living metal. Weapon ports opened and closed along its frame as if it was breathing. The eyes that scanned the approaching human fleet glowed with cold intelligence. Contact in 30 seconds. Captain Dongwook's voice came through the communication channel. His fleet of disguised mining ships looked pathetic compared to the Vorthak armada. AI Commander Zethval's transmission reached every ship in the area. Humans, you have come to witness your destruction. The render will demonstrate why resistance is futile. This is Captain Han of the Human Evacuation Fleet, Dongwook replied, his voice shaking with fake fear. We are fleeing Earth as requested. Please allow us passage. Overlord Thexmanar's laughter echoed across all frequencies. There is no passage, only death. Render. Show them the price of defiance. The weapon moved for the first time. Its motion was fluid and terrible, like a predator awakening. Plasma cannons emerged from its back and shoulders, charging with deadly light. All ships evasive maneuvers, Dongwook shouted. The human fleet scattered as the render opened fire. The first plasma burst tore through a mining ship's shields like they were made of paper. The vessel exploded in a ball of superheated gas and metal. Minho watched from his hidden position as the slaughter began. The render's movements were perfect, calculated for maximum destruction. Its weapons tracked multiple targets simultaneously while its body twisted to avoid return fire. Another human ship died. Then another. The alien observers recorded everything, some with satisfaction, and others with growing horror. This was not a battle, it was an execution, but Minho noticed something the others missed. The render's attacks followed optimal patterns. It chose targets based on threat assessment and tactical advantage. Every movement was logical and efficient. Too logical. Phase 2. Dongwook transmitted on a coded frequency. The human fleet began. A coordinated retreat, but their flight pattern was anything but random. Ships exploded in specific locations, creating debris fields that interfered with sensor readings. Electromagnetic pulses from damaged reactors flooded the area with static. The render adapted quickly, switching to different sensor modes and adjusting its targeting algorithms. But each adaptation required processing time, and the chaos was growing faster than it could compensate. Target acquired, Minho whispered into his communicator. His insertion pod was drifting toward the creature, camouflaged among the wreckage of destroyed ships. The render's sensors swept past him multiple times, but the pod's design made it look like just another piece of debris. One of Dongwook's ships, the cargo vessel New Soul, limped away from the battle with apparent engine damage. Smoke and sparks trailed behind it as it drifted helplessly through space. The render moved to finish it off, just as they had planned. Minho's pod was now less than 50 meters from the weapon. He could see the details of its construction, Organic, neural, networks wrapped around mechanical frameworks, living tissue merged with advanced alloys. Now, he said. The pod's camouflage system failed, revealing him to the render's sensors. For a split second, the creature hesitated. Its neural network tried to process what it was seeing, a single human in a tiny craft, approaching without weapons or defenses. That hesitation was all Minho needed. He triggered the pod's emergency ejection system, launching himself directly at the render's torso. The creature's point defense systems activated automatically, but they were designed to stop missiles and energy weapons, not a human body moving on pure momentum. Minho hit the render's chest plates with bone-jarring force. His magnetic clamps engaged, locking him to the creature's armor while his neural scrambler activated. The device would not damage the render, but it would create interference in its biomechanical systems. The weapon's response was immediate and violent. Weapon pods swiveled toward him, but they could not fire without hitting the creature itself. The render twisted and shook, trying to dislodge the unexpected passenger. Minho held on with desperate strength, his hands finding purchase in the gaps between armor plates. The render's movements were powerful enough to crush him, but they followed predictable patterns. It was trying to remove him efficiently, logically. So Minho moved illogically. He scrambled across the creature's surface like an insect, never staying in one place long enough for it to target him. When weapons pods tried to track him, he ducked, behind other components. When the render twisted left, he went right. The alien observers watched in stunned silence. This was not how battles were supposed to go. Weapons faced weapons. Technology fought technology. A single organic being should not be able to survive contact with the ultimate war machine. But Minho was not just surviving. He was learning. His training in structural engineering showed him the stress points where organic components joined mechanical ones. His enhanced reflexes let him feel the creature's movements before they happened. Most importantly, his human unpredictability was driving the render's neural network into computational overload. Target the joints. Dr. Yuna's voice crackled through his earpiece. Where the living tissue meets the metal framework. Minho found one such junction and drove his combat knife into it. The blade was not designed for this, but human tools could be remarkably effective when used with desperate creativity. The render's reaction was immediate and terrifying. Pain feedback flooded its neural network, causing a system-wide tremor. For the first time in its existence, the ultimate weapon experienced something it could not compute or categorize. It screamed. The sound was not mechanical or organic, but something in between. Every ship in the area heard it through their communication systems. The alien observers recoiled in shock and horror. Overlord Thexminar's voice cut through the chaos. All ships, fire on the render. Destroy it before the human can damage it further. The Vorthak fleet hesitated. Their ultimate weapon was thrashing wildly. Weapons firing in random directions as its pain-addled neural network struggled to function. Firing on it now might finish what the human had started. But Captain Dongwook's fleet was ready for this moment. The damaged ships suddenly revealed their true capabilities, launching a coordinated attack on the Vorthak vessels. The battle that followed was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Not because of the weapons used or the tactics employed, but because at its center was something impossible, a human being physically wrestling with a weapon designed to destroy armies. Minho found another neural junction and drove his knife deeper. The render's scream grew louder, its movements more erratic. Systems began to overload as the creature's perfect programming crashed against the reality of pain and chaos. It is working. Dr. Yuna's voice was full of amazement. The neural network is fragmenting. Keep going. But Minho was already committed. There was no going back now, no retreat or surrender. He was locked in mortal combat with the most dangerous weapon in the galaxy, and only one of them would survive. The render made a decision that shocked every observer. Instead of trying to remove Minho, it began to tear at its own armor, willing to damage itself to reach the source of its agony. The creature was learning to feel pain, and pain was teaching it to act irrationally. For the first time in its existence, the perfect weapon was making mistakes. The inside of the render was a nightmare of living metal and pulsing flesh. Minho had forced his way through a damaged armor section, crawling into the creature's internal systems like a virus entering a body. Around him, biomechanical components hummed with alien energy, while neural pathways glowed with information flowing at impossible speeds. "I am inside," he reported through his communicator, his voice strained from the physical effort of getting this far. Dr. Yuna's response crackled with static. "Incredible. No one has ever breached a render's internal structure." "What do you see?" Minho described the bizarre landscape around him. Organic tubes carried glowing fluids between mechanical processors. Living neural clusters pulsed with electric thought while quantum cores provided power to systems he could not begin to understand. "Find the central processing unit," Dr. Yuna instructed. "It should be a large biomechanical brain, probably in the torso area." The render was aware of his presence. Warning lights flashed throughout its body while defensive systems activated. Coolant flooded some passages while others filled with paralyzing gas. Mechanical antibodies, tiny robots designed to repair damage, swarmed toward his location, but the creature's responses were becoming increasingly irrational. Each time Minho moved, the render's neural network tried to predict his path and counter it. But human behavior did not follow the logical patterns the creature expected. When gas flooded a passage, Minho held his breath and pushed through it. When coolant blocked his way, he used his body heat to create a path. When antibodies attacked, he grabbed them and threw them at critical components. "It is trying to remove me like an infection," Minho reported. "But it is damaging itself in the process." The render's external behavior was growing more erratic by the minute. Through gaps in the internal structure, Minho could see the space battle raging outside. Fortax ships were firing on their own weapon, trying to destroy it before he could cause more damage. Captain Dongwook's fleet was holding them off, but barely. Human ships were not designed for direct combat with Vorthak dreadnoughts. They were buying time with courage and clever tactics, but time was running out. "Hurry." Suman's voice came through the communicator. "The Vorthak are bringing up their heavy destroyers. Dongwook cannot hold them much longer." Minho pressed deeper into the creature's body, following neural pathways toward what had to be the central brain. The journey was like climbing through the veins of a living computer, with processing nodes and memory cores creating a maze of organic technology. The render's attempts to stop him grew more desperate. It began shutting down entire sections of itself, sacrificing functionality to prevent his progress. But each shutdown caused system failures that spread to other areas. "The pain feedback is cascading through its neural network," Dr. Yuna explained over the comm. "It cannot isolate the damage because everything is connected. You are causing a complete system breakdown." Minho found what he was looking for in a chamber near the creature's core. The central processing unit was beautiful and terrible. AI, brain the size of a small room, made of living tissue woven through quantum processors. Millions of neural connections pulsed with thought, while data streams flowed like rivers of light. "Found it," he reported. "Can you damage it?" Minho looked at the massive biomechanical brain and laughed grimly. "I am going to do more than damage it. I am going to tear it apart with my bare hands." The brain was protected by energy shields and defensive barriers, but they were designed to stop weapons and energy attacks. Minho was neither. He was just a human being with determination and a complete disregard for impossible odds. He grabbed the first neural connection he could reach and pulled. The render's scream this time was felt rather than heard. Every component in its body vibrated, with agony as feedback flooded through the neural network. The creature's external weapons began firing randomly, hitting nothing but empty space and pieces of debris. Minho tore at more connections, ripping apart the delicate structures that controlled the weapon's thoughts. Each destroyed link caused more pain, more confusion, more system failures. The brain tried to adapt, rerouting functions around damaged areas, but Minho was not attacking specific systems. He was destroying everything he could reach, creating chaos that the neural network could not compensate for. "It is working." Dr. Yuna's voice was full of excitement. "The creature's predictive algorithms are failing. It cannot process that level of random damage. Outside, the render was spinning out of control. Its movements had become wild and uncoordinated as the central brain lost the ability to direct its body. Weapons fired at random targets while propulsion systems pushed in different directions. Overlord Thexmanar's voice cut through the communication channels. Impossible! No organic being should be able to survive inside the render. But Minho was not just surviving, he was winning. The biomechanical brain made one last desperate attempt to save itself. Emergency protocols activated, flooding the chamber with everything from poison gas to electric shocks. The brain began shutting down non-essential functions, trying to preserve its core programming. But Minho had moved beyond the reach of the creature's defenses. He was directly connected to the neural network now, his hands deep in the living tissue of the brain itself. Every nerve ending he touched sent waves of agony through the system. The render is trying to self-destruct, Suman reported. Its fusion cores are overloading. Then I had better hurry, Minho said. He found the main processing cluster, the part of the brain that controlled the creature's ability to think and adapt. It was a mass of organic neural tissue wrapped around quantum cores, pulsing with the consciousness of the ultimate weapon. Without hesitation, Minho grabbed it with both hands and squeezed. The render's death scream could be heard across the solar system. Every communication device in the area picked up the creature's final transmission, not words or data, but pure agony and confusion as its mind collapsed. The massive weapon convulsed once, twice, then went completely still. Its weapons powered down, its armor plates separated. The creature that had terrorized the galaxy for months died with a whisper rather than a roar. Minho felt the neural tissue in his hands go limp as the brain stopped functioning. Around him, the creature's internal systems began shutting down, one by one. Emergency power failed. Life support systems stopped working. The render was becoming a tomb. "Get out of there," Dr. Yuna shouted. "The fusion cores are reaching critical mass." But Minho was already moving. The path he had taken to reach the brain was blocked by debris and failed systems, so he created a new one. Using his knife and bare hands, he tore through internal structures, heading for the nearest external access point. The render's body was breaking apart around him. Structural failures cascaded through its frame as the neural network that held everything together stopped functioning. What had once been a perfectly coordinated organism was now just meat and metal falling apart in space. Minho reached an armor gap just as the first fusion core exploded. The shockwave threw him clear of the creature's body, sending him tumbling through space toward Captain Dongwook's fleet. Behind him, the ultimate weapon completed its destruction. Fusion cores detonated in sequence, tearing apart the biomechanical frame. The creature that had been designed to last forever became a cloud of expanding debris in less than 30 seconds. The Vorthak fleet stopped firing. The alien observers stared in stunned silence. Across the galaxy, communication networks carried the impossible news. The render was dead. The ultimate weapon had been destroyed by a single human armed with nothing but determination and bare hands. In the wreckage of impossible victory, Sergeant Minho Lee drifted unconscious through space, his mission complete and his legend just beginning. 3 months had passed since the render died, but the galaxy was still trying to understand what had happened. In the medical bay of the human ship, Incheon, Minho sat up in bed, his body finally healed from the ordeal inside the creature's systems. "The scars will fade," Dr. Yuna said, checking his vital signs, "but I think you will carry this experience with you forever." Through the viewport, Minho could see dozens of alien ships waiting in formation. Representatives from every major civilization had come to speak with the human who destroyed the impossible weapon. Some wanted to understand his methods. Others wanted to hire him. A few wanted to dissect him to learn his secrets. "They do not understand," he said quietly. "They think there was some trick or secret technique." Admiral Hyejin Park entered the medical bay carrying a data pad filled with messages from across the galaxy. "The Zephyrians are offering you honorary citizenship. The Luminari want to study your neural patterns. 3 different species have proposed marriage contracts." "Marriage contracts? They think you might breed super soldiers," Hyejin said with amusement. The alien mind works in interesting ways. Minho shook his head. I am just a soldier who got lucky. Lucky? Dr. Yuna laughed. You fought a weapon designed to destroy armies and won with your bare hands. If that is luck, then humans are the luckiest species in the universe. Commander Jinwoo entered with the latest intelligence reports. His expression was serious, but pleased. The Vorthak Empire is collapsing faster than we expected. 17 subject species have declared independence in the last month. Because they saw the render fall? Because they saw that impossible things are possible. Your victory changed how the galaxy thinks about power and resistance. Minho walked to the viewport and looked out at the alien ships. Each one represented a different approach to the same problem: how to build better weapons, stronger defenses, more advanced technology. But none of them understood the real lesson. Dr. Yuna, tell me about the psychological impact studies. She activated a holographic display showing data from across the galaxy. Every major civilization is reassessing their military doctrine. The Nexus Prime have started developing unpredictability algorithms. The Stellar Dominion is training their soldiers in chaos combat techniques. And the Vorthak? Their remaining fleets are in complete disarray. They built their entire strategy around the Render's invincibility. Without it, they have no idea how to fight a war. Admiral Heejin brought up tactical displays showing the changing political landscape. 12 former Vorthak colonies have requested human military advisors. They do not want our weapons or technology. They want to learn how to think like humans. That could be dangerous, Minho said with a slight smile. Extremely dangerous, but effective. Captain Dongwook Han joined them, still wearing his combat uniform from the ongoing liberation campaigns. The latest reports from the former Vorthak territories. The species there are not just declaring independence, they are using human tactics to drive out the occupation forces. What kind of tactics? Unpredictable ones. Guerrilla warfare, psychological operations, asymmetric strategies. They are fighting with emotion and instinct instead of just logic and firepower. Minho felt a mix of pride and concern. We may have started something we cannot control. Or something that should have started long ago, Heejin said. The galaxy has been dominated by civilizations that thought technology was everything. Maybe it is time for a different approach. Dr. Yuna pulled up her latest research findings. I have been analyzing the Render's remains. The neural network architecture was incredibly sophisticated, but it had one fatal flaw. Which was, it could not imagine failure. The designers made it so confident in its own abilities that it could not adapt to situations where it might lose. When you started causing real damage, it literally could not process the concept. Minho thought about this. So its greatest strength was also its greatest weakness. Exactly. Perfect predictive algorithms work perfectly until they encounter something truly unpredictable. Then they collapse completely. A communication alert chimed, and Private Suman's face appeared on the screen. Sir, we have received a formal request from the Galactic Council. They want to establish a new military doctrine based on human combat principles. What did you tell them? That humans do not have combat principles. We just make it up as we go along, Jinwoo laughed. That is probably the most accurate military assessment anyone has ever given them. The communication screen changed to show Admiral Heejin in her dress uniform. She was preparing for another council session, this time as humanity's representative to discuss the post-Vorthak galaxy. The council wants to know if we can teach other species to fight like humans, she said. Can we? Minho asked Dr. Yuna. That is the fascinating question. Human unpredictability comes from emotion, instinct, and the willingness to attempt impossible things. These are not techniques that can be easily taught. But they can be inspired, Heejin said. That is what your victory did. It showed the galaxy that logic and technology have limits, but determination and courage do not. Minho walked back to the viewport. In the distance, he could see the debris field where the Render had died. Salvage crews from a dozen species were studying the wreckage, trying to understand how such an advanced weapon could be defeated by primitive methods. They will never figure it out, he said. Why not? Dr. Yuna asked. Because they are still thinking like machines. They want to find the technical solution, the logical explanation. But there was not one. I just refused to give up. A year later, Minho stood in the War Memorial on Earth, looking at the display case that held fragments of the render's neural core. Children from dozens of species gathered around as he told the story one more time. "But how did you know you could win?" asked a young Zephyrian, her bioluminescent patches flickering with curiosity. "I did not know," Minho said. "But not knowing something is impossible has never stopped humans from trying it anyway." A luminary child raised a glowing hand. "My parents say you used secret human weapons. The only weapons I used were these." Minho held up his bare hands. "And this," he tapped his forehead. "And this," he pointed to his heart. "That does not make sense," said a mechanical Nexus Prime youth. "Organic appendages and emotional responses are not weapons." "That is exactly why they worked," Minho replied. "The render was designed to counter every known weapon, but it was not designed to counter the human spirit." An adult voice from the back of the group spoke up. "Sergeant Lee, do you think other species can learn to fight like humans?" Minho considered the question carefully. Fighting like humans is not about technique or training. It is about refusing to accept defeat even when defeat seems certain. It is about doing impossible things because no one told you they were impossible. But can that be taught? It cannot be taught, but it can be learned. Every time someone sees the impossible happen, they learn that impossible is just another word for difficult. As the group dispersed, Minho remained at the memorial. The galaxy had changed since his encounter with the render. Species that had lived under Vorthak rule for generations were now free. Military doctrines that had remained unchanged for millennia were being rewritten. The age of technological dominance was ending, replaced by something more chaotic but also more alive. Dr. Yuna joined him at the display case. "Any regrets?" "About destroying the render?" "None." "About what came after?" He paused. "Sometimes I wonder if we have made the galaxy a more dangerous place." "Definitely, but also a more free place. The Vorthak ruled through fear and superior technology. Now every species knows that even the most advanced weapons can be defeated by determination and creative thinking. And that scares some people. It should. But fear of freedom is better than acceptance of slavery." Minho looked at the neural core fragments one last time. The biomechanical tissue was dead and gray now, nothing like the pulsing, living intelligence he had faced inside the creature's body. "Do you think we will ever see another weapon like the render?" "Probably. But next time, whoever builds it will have to account for the human factor. They will have to design something that can handle chaos, emotion, and the complete refusal to follow logical patterns." "And can they do that?" Dr. Yuna smiled. "They can try. But the moment they make their weapon predictable enough to control, it becomes vulnerable to unpredictable attacks. It is an unsolvable problem." "Good," Minho said. As they walked away from the memorial, Minho felt a deep satisfaction. The galaxy was messier now, more chaotic and unpredictable. Species were learning to fight with passion instead of just logic, with determination instead of just technology. It was, he thought, a much more human place. And that was exactly what the universe needed.